the way that the Reddit live streaming worked was that they were trying to show you to new people, not people who knew who you were. It was a discovery algorithm. And so if people filtered in and started commenting and didn't leave, more people would filter in and more people. And all of a sudden, if you're just scrolling, we pop up. You didn't ask to see us. We're just there. And so we like our singer Adam talks about this all the time. But like when we had our first really big stream where something like 300,000 people wandered in and out of that and interacted and did something, he's like, "Oh, I practically had a panic attack on the drive home. That's too many people." What does that mean?
This is Rob Ruckus.
Hey, this is Kate Clover.
Hey guys, it's Nick Collins here from The Effect and Better Strangers.
Hi, my name is Madeline Rose.
Hey, it's Ben McKelvey.
It's Tim Howard here from Mike and the Mechanics.
Hello, I'm Amanda Lehman.
I'm Billy Harvey.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Casey Sampson from the band Twist Stop.
Hey, it's Tony from Fastball.
Hello, everybody. My name is Isaiah Mitchell.
Hey, guys, it's Matt here from the White Lakes.
You're listening to Almost Famous Magazine.
Come join us for this interview. Check it out, Almost Famous Magazine.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to The Hang right here on Almost Famous Magazine. Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel, joining us in these hangs. We've had so much fun bringing you different musicians from different genres, different styles, different backgrounds, as well as people in arts and entertainment. And today is no different. Now, I recently came upon a band that if you haven't put your ears to this yet, you don't know what you're missing out. So by the end of this little hang today, I'm hoping that you're going out and buying some of their music, okay? Sub Radio. They've been described as like infectious pop with like gorgeous vocal harmony. Yes, they got a great lead singer. They're tailor-made for festival sing-alongs. I'm going to tell you right now, because they've been described a bunch of different ways, but the one that I haven't heard that I want to talk to Kyle about today is Anthem Pop. I think they should own Anthem Pop, because this is like, if you're having a low energy day, you need to be listening to Sub Radio. They've been compared to, although they've got their own sound, like the Killers, the Aces, Panic at the Disco. But I'll be honest with you, I've been listening to them. I'm now a fan, and I think you will be too by the time we finish up today. So Kyle, thanks for hanging with us today.
Scott, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I am so excited to get into like everything about the band, because you had an interesting start and then the world stopped for a little while and you guys made the best of it. And now you're out on the road bringing it to audiences. So I'm excited to get started today. One thing, is that you can't believe everything you read on the internet, right? So that being said, I want to go back to the beginning. Now, as I understand it, you guys were like in high school in 2009 in Virginia, and you all came together. Tell me the story about how that happened, and like how did that magic start to unfold so that you got to that moment of realization that, wait a minute, there's something here.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's kind of ironic because I wasn't there during the founding of the band. I joined a little bit later, but I can tell the story just fine because I've heard it a few times.
No, that's perfect.
But yeah, I went to a high school down the street from these guys. So just imagine me 5 miles away. This story's happening where everybody's meeting in a guitar class. There's a music elective that everyone has to take. And so everybody being a young, impressionable age in the 2000s, they're like, well, I'm going to play guitar because that's cool. And everybody met one by one. Matt decided, I'm going to start a band. John was in the band. They found Adam. They found Mike. I mean, yeah, everybody was just getting added one by one. And that was the beginning. And then as things moved on, it kept getting like one step, 2 steps, 3 steps further into being more professional. And it probably took a while. I would say that was all the way back in like 2010. But that was like playing around parents' basement, doing some covers, playing at like the Starbucks down the street and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, shoot, everybody managed to hold it together, learn new songs, write new music. Band stayed together through college, playing a bunch of bar shows. And then, probably started taking a real swing at it after graduation, probably around 2019.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Since you weren't involved, you probably have the story of the name of the band, though. You probably know where that came from. And look, there's what, 5? I think there were 6, maybe 6 people back then in the band, something like that. That's a lot of politicking you got to do in order to land on a name that everyone's going to agree on. What's the story behind the name?
So the name was actually a different name for all those years that I just described. It was a longer name. And at that time, I was a friend and fan of the band. So I was watching this band at shows down at a high school, like Battle of the Bands, and college. And by the time I had joined, they had already changed the name. It was just too many letters, too many words, and it was getting mispronounced. I don't even know how democratic or not that decision was. I think it was just unanimous. We got to change it. Every time somebody announces us, it's wrong.
So for like musical history nerds who follow bands, what was the name before Subradio?
I don't know if I'm supposed to say it or not. It's out there. It's out there. People can find it, but I'll actually say I'm not. I don't know if it's a secret or not. But I just realized I'm not positive that it's not. So I have to be kind of
well, you want to keep your job and all, right?
right.
Well, the band. I've listened to a lot of the songs, and it kind of a slow boil from the beginning, right? And then got a little poppier and a little more upbeat and more up tempo. Because I think anthem pop is definitely the title for you guys, because it's so high energy. It is so high energy. But as the band got going, and you were at this point in the band, right? COVID hits. And as many bands and artists struggled to like continue to figure out how to build an audience and maintain that audience, y'all didn't go to like the usual place. You ended up in Reddit.
No, yeah, of all places.
I mean, how did that happen? Considering that Reddit is like this place for going and finding obscure information, right? Mm-hmm. Or going down rabbit holes. Next thing you know, you guys have took off, and like you're on the Reddit public access network and got 7 million views.
Like, yeah, it was a gnarly story. I mean, we were doing what everybody else was doing, which was just hitting the road and playing shows. And sometimes there were people there and sometimes there weren't. But we were, I mean, like days away from starting another national tour when we had no idea who was going to be at those shows. And then the whole lockdown happened. I mean, we had already like booked a few hotel rooms and like an Airbnb down for South by Southwest, had to try and wrestle to get all that fixed. I mean, I'm sure everybody had a similar experience. But when it all shut down, I mean, we obviously couldn't meet up in person, and we were having phone calls and we were writing music. And at a certain point, once we all realized we're kind of in the same bubble as each other now, we don't have to be like apart. We can at least be like in the same room together. We first tried live streaming a concert on Instagram, of all places, and it was not very conducive for that. They have like a vocal noise gate, kind of like Zoom used to, interrupt your whole performance. And so we just happened to notice our founder, Matt, he noticed that Reddit Public Access Network was just kicking off and other people were performing, but it was all solo acts and magicians and comedians and just kind of people playing video games. And we thought, well, we've got a mixer and a bunch of microphones and we can plug everything in and just kind of make it sound like a show. Let's have a show. I feel like there's no shows right now.
So how did you get the word out? I mean, 7 million is a lot. I mean, how did that kind of boil up from, hey, let's turn on the lights to this grows to 7 million?
That was a great thing because we didn't really plan it. Like we told everybody we could, but we were a small band and we just said like, hey, we're going to go do this. Come check it out. And when people got in there, it was just the people we knew. It was like playing for your friends down at the local bar or something. But, and we've discovered this on a couple of different platforms since. The way that the Reddit live streaming worked was that they were trying to show you to new people, not people who knew who you were. It was a discovery algorithm. And so if people filtered in and started commenting and didn't leave, more people would filter in and more people. And all of a sudden, if you're just scrolling, we pop up. You didn't ask to see us. We're just there. And so we like, our singer Adam talks about this all the time, but like when we had our first really big stream where something like 300,000 people wandered in and out of that and interacted and did something, he's like, oh, I practically had a panic attack on the drive home. That's too many people. What does that mean? So yeah, we just ran with it. We kept doing it.
No, that's great. I mean, just imagine one day you're playing, you're playing in front of that many people live. I mean, have you done any shows that big yet?
I don't think so.
No, not yet. What kind of shows have you been doing? You guys have spent the summer on so much so far. The summer's been on tour, right?
A little bit, yeah. We did the East Coast of Our Past Selves tour this year, and then we did a quick little international thing, and then we did a short support run for Fits and the Tantrums, just a few dates.
What was that like with Fits and the Tantrums?
It's a blast. They're super nice. The crew is great. The everybody is a pleasure to work with, and like the days are actually professionally planned out, which is very nice. There's some organization and stability in the lifestyle.
No, were you guys out of like the little travel camper into some better accommodations?
No, we're just following them around in our old van.
They'd let you on board every now and then, right? They'd be like, "Here, we've got
You can just
cookies."
say, "Hey, yeah, you got your credentials to get backstage. All right, see you."
That's cool. Well, hopefully that leads to some other shows. I've seen Fits and Tantrums a few times. Been a fan of theirs, and you definitely I can see that it was a good pairing, right? I mean, sometimes you get paired with these bands that you can't make any sense of. Like, how do we end up here? Have you guys been through any of that?
Not lately, because we've had more of a say as to who we work with, and like it was a great opportunity to get to work with Fits and the Tantrums. They're a blast, and they put on a hell of a show. But yeah, we've definitely been in that situation. Not so much lately, but we've been in the situation where we go out there and play for an audience, and they just don't get our deal. Like we fall flat on our faces because it just doesn't match. It wasn't a good fit. But yeah, lately we've had really good help from our booking agent Dan. He's been on top of making sure that it's, I don't know, the vibe is correct. Is a good way to say it, I guess.
Well, talking about live performances, especially since you guys kind of as soon as kind of lockdown I think was over and people started to get out, you guys started to get back out and doing shows. I noticed you had some live videos where people were still in masks and stuff like that. What have you had your Spinal Tap Stonehenge moment yet?
Define what you mean by the Spinal Tap Stonehenge moment.
Oh, you've not seen Spinal Tap?
I've seen the highlights. I'm
when they're doing like they got Stonehenge coming down from the top, and it ends up being the dancers are like dwarfs, and it's a mini little Stonehenge. Like they have the whole movie is just these bizarre things that happen when you're out on the road. So like, what's been the most batshit crazy thing that's happened to you guys that you're like, how in the world did we get ourselves here?
That is a good question. I don't know if I can pull like one crazy thing. This is why I always love having the other guys in the band around me, because someone will pull something out of the back of their brain. But I do remember we played, of all things, the Just for Laughs festival in Toronto last year, which had us opening up for Fred Armisen, which it's not like insane, but it's just like, yeah, I mean, we think we're kind of funny. We're not hit like funny, haha, like that funny, but it was an interesting order of the show,
Well, did you get I mean, yeah, because usually the comedians open up for the band, right? I've seen that happen before.
Once or twice, yeah.
Yeah, I have seen that in my lifetime. Now he's a drummer. Did you guys get a chance to? Did he try to sit in with you guys? I mean, was there any music?
Oh, he was just there long enough. I mean, he's on tour, routed from one thing to the next, so we didn't get a chance to hang out or anything like that. But yeah, he did the full like bit about the drums. He had like stuff to play along to. He would walk back to the kit and then back up front. Hold on, and then right back to the kit.
Nice.
That's a great set.
That's pretty cool. I've seen some people do that, both comedians and some musicians who like bring instruments that you don't normally expect them to play, right? And they're jumping around the stage. It's kind of cool because it's an expansion of your abilities, right?
Absolutely.
So that's kind of cool. Now, I don't know if this came out of COVID or not, but I was doing some research to talk with you today, and you've got like some key songs that you do, Caroline, Better Than That, Disco, Flashback, like King of My, those are your top performance songs, right?
Yeah.
But you guys are writing on a pretty regular basis from what I can tell, because you guys do a lot of EP release as opposed to just doing albums.
Yeah.
So, how do you guys build the set list, keep it fresh, so that you're not like tired and bored of playing the same songs over and over again?
That's a really great question. We actually just, so we're going out on the road in 3 weeks, like mid-September, depending on when this comes out. And we just yesterday finalized the set list that we're going to play. And we had to ask ourselves that same question, like, how do we not make everybody upset? As we're counting through everything, we're realizing we're putting like 1 or 2 songs from all these EPs on there, and then some of them are getting left out entirely, and it's just we have too much music. We're trying to make sure that everybody gets to hear what they want to hear.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, are there any songs, we don't have to give away the game on what people can expect, but are there, as a music fan myself,
Mm-hmm.
I love it when a band plays something that's so unexpected, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it may be their favorite song that they've done, but maybe not
Yeah.
the audience's. Do you guys have anything like that? Like you guys say, we've got this one baby that we really love, but we don't play it often enough, and you're going to pull it out?
We do semi-routinely pull stuff out like that, and it just kind of depends on if we're ready to do it or not. Like we're rehearsing a handful of, like you call it a rotating slot or something like that, but a handful of songs that aren't getting played super regularly, and they're just going to get sprinkled out here and there. There are some that we have in the past pulled out and probably will again in the future that are just like deep cuts for the fans, which I'm a super big fan of. I always say like we got to keep playing the song. It's called Emotional. It's my favorite song.
Cool.
And it's mostly because it's easy to play and it's very good in my opinion. But it doesn't usually make the cut when we're trying to fit everything into a tight 17 or so song list.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, besides being, what is it that drew you to that song? Why do you have such an affinity for it and love it so much?
There's something about the first chorus. I mean, all the choruses are good, but I'm an audio engineer professionally outside of the band, and so what I really kind of latch onto is ear candy more than anything else. A lot of people love lyrics and people love drum parts and stuff. I just kind of like when something is like scratching my brain just right. And that first chorus is just a perfect amalgamation of all those things. I mean, everything is building, it cuts out. We're down to like just a simple like 4 on the floor kick drum pattern. The guitar is going crazy. There's reverb everywhere. The vocals are doing these insane jumps, and then things start coming back in one by one until it's all in at once. And it's very satisfying to me.
Oh, cool. Well, yeah, I noticed that about y'all's music is you've got some songs that really feel like you applied the less is more principle to as they're coming out of the gate, but as they build, you guys literally light the rocket fuel. And it's real. I think it helps you stand out a little bit with some of the songs you have and the kind of the sound of the band overall. And I noticed that on a bunch of them. So
yeah, thank you. There's a song that we put out a few years ago called "What You Want to Hear," where the part that comes after the chorus we call it post-chorus. It's the entire kitchen sink, and there's a long like text chain amongst the band of being like, which part do we take out? Is it going to be this one? Is it going to be that one? Because everybody is just doing the most all at the same time, and we just left it in all of it.
Well, I mean that's a good launching point to another topic. How do you guys write together? Are you a writing conglomeration, or do you each individually bring pieces to the band? What's the process for you guys?
Yeah, so the process traditionally has been the song will typically get started in Matt's incubator or Adam's, but usually Matt's, and then they'll bring them together as sort of like a 30-second idea. Like, here's a taste of a song. Do we like this? Do we like the vibe and the direction? And we're typically in a room together with our instruments set up, and we'll try and make it, 3 minutes long. We'll try and make it a full song. And from there, the lyrics will get written sort of after the fact, unless there's something really strong. Like some of them have started with a lyrical idea first. And then even as of late, there have been a couple of times where the song has been co-written with other writers. And so that process begins with a different crew, like maybe Matt, Adam, and someone else start it. And then we'll like see if we can finish it, or maybe they'll flesh out the whole thing. And then we'll be like, well, let's write this chord. Let's change this part. Usually everybody's getting their hands on it at some point. But yeah, it definitely starts with Matt and Adam and then tends to get pretty close and then wrapped up by everybody else.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's always interesting the process of like who's bringing what. I mean, you've got Adam and Matt and John and Michael and yourself, right? All kind of bringing your own flavor, right? So like what's something about each of them that you really love or like about them that they bring that helps elevate the overall sound, so it's the sum of the parts?
That's a great question. I mean, everybody's bringing their influence. So their talent is there, but like everyone's bringing their influence, which means they're coming up with stuff that other guys wouldn't come up with. So the uniqueness is already like the number one reason why everybody gels so well together. But I mean, Matt's a hook writing machine. He likes to do melodies and top lines. That's a lot of fun. Adam handles almost all of the lyrics most of the time. So he's the emotional support underneath the music and then elevating it, making it mean something. Michael has a lot of interesting drum ideas. He's a big fan of linear drumming. Linear drumming meaning like he's not always just playing normal beats, but every piece he's doing one thing at a time, and he's continuing to do it throughout. So he's got busy parts, he's got thought out parts. It's very interesting. And then John is just ridiculously talented. We make a joke that there could just be like 5 Johns in the band. He can play the drums, he can play the bass, he can play the keys, the guitars. Like he often does. Sometimes we're in the studio and it's like, Dad, just have John do it.
So if you guys have to make a name change, it'll become the 5 Johns. Will that be
Yeah.
the name of
John and the other ones? Yeah.
John and the other ones. That's great.
Yeah.
You know, I got a question about Michael. Because
Yeah.
here's something I hadn't seen. And maybe this is unique to him. I mean, most drummers I know, they keep their sticks attached to one of their floor toms. He wears them like he's an archer. It's like these are his quiver full of arrows. And like he's reaching behind. Like how did that happen for him? Like why? I mean, it's just different, and it's interesting to me.
It is different. It's become his thing. I don't know where he got the idea. It might have just been a visual inspiration from like Archers or something. I know he's like the world's biggest Legend of Zelda fan, so maybe he just wants to be Link on the inside. But yeah, he grabbed one of those bags that hangs off the floor tom and punched a couple holes in it, put like those eyelets and a strap, and just wears it on his back everywhere. I mean, it was to the point where like that's the very last thing out the door of the green room before we hit the stage. He's like, "Where's my quiver?" Like that's the last piece of the puzzle.
You know, maybe he can brand that, and there's a product line there for him.
We've been looking for ways. So if you know anybody, you know,
the stick quiver. There you go. That's the stick quiver.
Exactly.
Well, cool. I saw that. I'm like, I'm always looking for something that stands out, right? And that really kind of stands out, you know, in his playing. Is that he's just his moves, and it goes along with what you were saying about that linear thing. Because when he's grabbing for another stick, it works within that style.
Yeah, he can kind of keep the stuff going because there's not usually 2 hands doing something at the same time, so he can kind of and then whip right back into it.
As long as he doesn't pull them out and start throwing them at you guys, right?
Exactly. He said it was born out of necessity too. Apparently, he used to break a lot of sticks. Doesn't happen so much anymore, but I guess in the early days,
has he ever accidentally grabbed one and it went flying?
Oh yeah. That's happened before. Luckily not like out into the audience. He has a great story about being at somebody else's concert. I can't remember what. And the drummer there thought it was a great idea, like a guitar player throwing picks, to throw a drumstick out in the audience. And he had to dodge it. And so now he's very mindful about where his sticks are going.
Yeah, let's make sure that's written into your insurance rider.
Exactly.
There's some liability there. Another thing that you guys do is a fair number of covers. Now, I don't know if that's out of necessity, right? Because you've done mainly EPs. You've got a lot of songs in the deck. But like, how do you guys choose a cover and then agree on the one you want to do? Because that's another like 5 different ideas there that you got to land on something everyone agrees with.
No, absolutely. I would say like the kind of tour we're about to go on, we don't really play many covers at all. We're doing like half of one just at the end of a song, but that's when we're playing a sub radio show. Tickets are for sub radio at the door. You're coming to see us. But we have spent a long time trying to climb the ladder and get people to know who we are. And so before we were even focused on like the internet and everything like that, and we were just kind of playing local stuff. I mean, we were playing 3-hour bar sets for cash and like avoiding like tipped over beer bottles and stuff. So we had an arsenal of something like 60 or 70 songs that we already knew that weren't ours, that were just crowd pleasers. And when we started doing all that live streaming on the internet, like, well, we'll just play a bunch of those in between all of our songs, and that way people will hear something they know, and then we trick them, and then we start playing our music. As far as how those got chosen, it was just like somebody would bring the idea, and if anyone didn't say no, then it would work.
Well, I mean, considering I think you guys have a music video where you're like dressed up like Star Wars, those Jedi mind tricks have worked out pretty well with those covers, huh?
Yeah. That's another one too, because then you start delving into the Weird Al like parody side of the internet. Like people start getting a kick out of the humor as well as the music they already know. It's a cheat code in a way.
Well, let me ask you this: as one of 5, and music in general is this ever evolving thing, right? And we find things that we like. Is there a song recently that's been sticking in your head, going like, if we were to go down a path and talk about doing another cover, there's one that you'd want to do? Do you have a song that you've thought about?
Personally, I don't think I do. I mean, we just released a cover this year. I think it was back in February or March. But we covered Ceilings by Lizzie McAlpine, but we danced it up. Part of what we've been doing with our stuff lately, you're talking about anthem pop and things like that. We're just trying to inspire good times. Adam has described it as low stakes fun and why there isn't more of that. He's very upset about it, and I agree. I think that there's too many people saying a lot of things, and everybody is sad more than they should be, and everybody has a lot of anxiety. So let's have some fun. And that's what we were doing with that cover. We just went ham.
That's
so it
nice.
does not sound like the original. Maybe a bit tone deaf in the messaging because the song is a very somber song, but the music is fun.
Well, I mean, you guys definitely with these covers, and for those of us who are hanging with us, I mean, they sub radioify them. I mean, and I think that's one of the things that really kind of stuck out when I was listening is some people cover tunes and it's, I mean, for what it is, it's a little bit of recyclable, right? I think when you're able to put a stamp on it that you keep the essence of the original but put your own spin on it, I think you take it to another place, right?
Definitely.
And also a conversation I've been having with some people lately, and I'd definitely like to get your take on it. Going back to when you demo a song, right? The art of the demo, as we used to have it, like if they used to come out on the back of a record, right? Some people would put out those early demos, right? Mm-hmm. But with technology, the art of that is kind of fallen away a little bit because you're just piling on top of the set of tracks and you're building and building and building off of one thing. Whereas it used to be, you'd have a recorder over here, then you'd bring it in, you'd either replay it or you master it somewhere, build it up, right? And you have all these ones. So the interesting thing that I'm curious about, and I'd love your opinion on this, is when do you know the song is done?
An old professor at college used to say that it's not so much done as it is just abandoned. You have to give up on it at a certain point. Because you could tinker all day, and I sure do because I mix half the stuff we put out, and spend a lot more hours than I want to. But yeah, sometimes you just got to take your hands off and say, "That's it, we're done."
Well, let me ask you this: you guys have reached that point before. You're done. You send it out there in the world. Do you ever come back and go, "Wait a minute, maybe we should tweak it a little bit, do something give it some different life"? Mm-hmm. Do you ever do that?
We haven't officially done it as a release, but we talk about it sometimes. There's a handful of things that were put out at the beginning of our career that were like, gosh, it would be so great if it sounded a little different. But it also, I mean, people have grown to like it the way that it is also. So I feel like you can't replace it, right? You'd be doing people a disservice to the stuff that they enjoy as well. So I don't know, maybe there's a way to put both out there. But, sometimes you just become the greatest hits record, like at Target, that CD that everybody bought, and they only know those 10 songs.
Well, I mean, I think it's that music is a little different than, let's say, painting. Mm-hmm. You put oil on canvas and it hardens and you put it on a wall. Mm-hmm. But you think about Sting, he's been performing Roxanne now more times than anybody. I can't count that high, right? Yeah. But he's found ways to change it and mold it into something different and new so that it stays satisfying for him, but also intriguing for his fans, and music is one of the things that doesn't become hardened per se, like a painting. So I'm always interested in, is that something you consider, or is that an avenue that an artist decides to take? Because wait a minute, we played this way a long time. What if we put something else in the stew, so to say, and mix it up?
Yeah. I think live, we absolutely do that. Even accidentally, some things will be changing and then they'll just kind of stick. But yeah, as we tour and as we come back home and then go back out on the road, we realize we're playing some of the older stuff quite differently than the way it was recorded. But we haven't decided to alter the recordings yet. It might be in the cards.
Stick around, everybody. You never know.
Right.
So you're an engineer. You're a sound engineer professionally. So let's talk about you a little bit, right? Forget the band. We're here to talk about you. We're now on to Kyle. How did you get into music? Did you find it or did music find you? What's kind of your musical origin story?
It's a deep question. I think growing up, my parents wanted me to have something defined, but I don't know if I found it at the time they wanted me to. I remember just talking about this, and it brought back a memory I hadn't thought about in years, where I took like 4 weeks of piano lessons at one point, and I just hated it. I was like, this is the most boring thing. It felt like I was waiting in a dentist's office, and like it was too hot, and like there was just a bunch of stuff. It was just boring. It was in an office park. And then, yeah, years later, I just, for some reason, stumbled across AC/DC, and that was like the beginning of the end. For some reason, I know it doesn't match the music we make right now, but I did that. And then the embarrassing part of the story is a lot of my formative years were spent being good at Guitar Hero. It was a game I liked playing, and so I discovered a bunch of things that way at an impressionable age, probably like, 10 years old.
Well, I mean, that leads us down the path of like, who were some of the artists who inspired you that may, many people will go down different paths, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, we've had musicians on here who they've been in punk bands, but they played jazz on the weekend, right? Or they've been in a jazz band, but they also like sideline and classical, or, there's some things that influenced them, that inspired them to be creative, and they love to perform in many genres. Who are some of the people who really inspired you besides AC/DC? And then genres that are like your comfort food. Like if you're going to go back and practice, you say, hell, I'd like to do some of that. It's not what we do as the band, but it's something that fulfills you.
I'd say musical comfort food for me is what I've determined is riff rock. It kind of like splits its way through modern rock and classic rock and garage and punk and all that stuff. But anything that just has somebody just going for it, Rage Against the Machine or The Hives or Queens of the Stone Age or all that stuff was things that I will put on and people will just be like, really? Like, what do you mean, really? Like, this is the best. And so that is my like defense. I have to defend things when I'm listening to them. But yeah, sorry, remind me the first part of the question again.
Well, I mean, who are some of the artists and genres that have really inspired you, right, through this early musical career? I mean, you're starting to learn, you're like, okay, I got AC/DC. Well, that's AC/DC is not necessarily in the neighborhood of what you do now. Let's just call it what it is. And for those of you who don't know AC/DC or are watching this, go check them out and you'll understand why.
You better.
So you went a little you've made your career now in something a little far afield from that. Mm-hmm. What are some of those genres or bands that had some influence that helped you become the musician you are now, so that you could bring what you have to sub radio?
Well, I spent a lot of time kicking around in classic rock world because of my origin story. And after I got out of that, I was getting into like a lot of different like guitar people that I was following. So maybe this isn't so much of a unique story, but I was following people on like YouTube in the early days and learning like their original music. And Michael also has some people that he cites as like drummers that play covers, and he's liking them more so than the actual covers that they're doing. Like Quiver is a great example of a drummer. I mean, Drumeo has been putting out a lot of good stuff. But yeah, I was realizing that like I'm learning way more stuff online that like doesn't apply because nobody knows what these songs are, and so I kind of like migrated from that into some more like poppy territory, and that happened to be right around the time that I was kicking around the idea of joining this band when they had talked to me. And I kind of like opened up my horizons like pretty widely right when I joined the band. They had a bunch of stuff that I was like on the outside of listening to, like I hadn't heard of it, or like I knew the name of the artist, but I never really checked them out. And so my Spotify saved list went up by like 20 albums on like day one, and I was doing some homework, but like really I was just kind of like enjoying it.
Well, cool. No, I whether you're learning from someone who's doing their own originals, they're doing it, they're covering someone or whatever. I mean, isn't it about those little pieces that you notice, that you take away going, wait a minute, there's something there. How am I going to do, how can I do that? And how can I make it part of me? Right. It's kind of like almost each musician giving each other a piece of legacy in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Inspiration is a huge thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a huge thing. Okay, here's a music geek question for you. Okay. you're in a very upbeat pop band, right? A lot of high energy. Okay. Taking yourself into being part of the five, if you could describe your personality as a mode, which mode would it be?
Ooh, we're talking musical modes.
Of course, yeah.
I didn't know how who this was marketed towards. Let's see.
This is dude. This is everybody. We're just talking. I mean,
I got it.
What's your mode? What mode are you?
I want to say Dorian. I'm a Dorian mode that I bring to the table because I'm throwing in that one note that shouldn't be there, but sometimes it works and we get to keep it a little bit.
Cool. I've been asking that question lately because I think it's interesting because I think sometimes when you speak to an artist, you get surprised that their mode may be really different than who they feel they really are,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or who they present themselves as, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think that's just fun. So now you've got some shows coming up through the end of October-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll round out 2024, if you can believe we're already at the halfway to the back end of it.
It's moving.
So what's next after that? What do you get? You guys got anything in the works? I mean, is there
We
an
do,
album,
yeah.
more EPs? Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah. So we've transitioned into the beginning of our album release cycle. We were finally doing another album after all these years. The first album we put out, we didn't know what we were doing. We just put it on Spotify. Didn't do singles. Didn't tell anybody about it. That was a bit of a misstep. But this album, a bunch of pre-roll. We're doing some promotion. We just announced that the first single is coming out September 20th in 2024. So just a few weeks from now. We'll already be a couple dates into the tour by then. But whichever show is happening right on that day or after, that's the single release show. So whoever's going to be there.
So is the safe assumption it's in the set list?
Oh yeah. We don't really plan too many steps ahead. This one's been in the set list for like a year and a half, so we kind of knew that people wanted us to put it out by now. But yeah, that's the beginning. We've got some other singles coming. The album is coming. We don't know exactly when, and if we did, we probably wouldn't say yet, but it's coming.
Cool. As a musician, if you could get into a studio with somebody for a day and create with them, right? If you had an opportunity to do that, you can get a day with them to write some music, talk music, whatever. Who would that one person be at the very top of your list to hang with and create with for a day?
And the very top of the list. That's a great question. I almost want to cheat and say that I would actually lean towards engineers that I've been trying to work with, because I do studio engineering as well as live engineering. But I would love to pick the brain of Eric Valentine. He's recorded a lot of people, Queens of Stone Age, Third Eye Blind, Smash Mouth, just tons and tons of influential things. And I just want to know, how did you do that thing? Because I feel not only is he participating and helping create something, but he also has the varied. And this is true of all engineers and producers, but if I wanted to know how they did that one thing in Smash Mouth, he probably knows, and he also knows how they did that one thing in something else that I just didn't even know I could ask. So I'm almost cheating by picking many artists, but I'm not picking the artist. I'm picking somebody who was also in the session with the artists.
Dude, the most creative way that question has ever been answered. You just hit the nail on the head. Congratulations.
Well, shoot.
I mean, no, that's great. I mean, it's I think it's important to have a dream of, if I could do something, because you never know. Maybe he's listening to this. Maybe he finds out. But it's something that would really fulfill you in your life and your career to get a chance and opportunity to do that. And I think it's important. So I think that's super cool. Yeah. One thing that I think is really, really important, especially in this day and age, because you guys work really hard to not only create the music for your fans, but you're working harder than ever to make a living at it, right? The struggle's real, right?
Absolutely.
And I think it's super important, and people have heard me say this over and over again. Go out and buy a band's music, right? Support them with $1 here or there, 10, 20, 30, go see a show, buy merch, things like that. Because I don't, to get in a museum, you at least have to buy a ticket, right?
Yeah.
So I'm big on, feel free to sample in that smorgasbord of Spotify or whatever out there, but go and support artists. But on that same note, I think it's important that we share the names and ideas around other artists and musicians that we think are just cool. And like people might say, I'm going to give them a listen. So who are like 2 or 3 artists who have some music that you really enjoy, that's kind of earwormish to you, that you think other people would dig?
So I've been plugging them a couple of times, and I'm going to keep doing it because I need more people to know about them. But there's a band out of San Francisco called Spiritual Cramp, and they are just like pretty much the perfect blend of ear candy that we were just talking about. Like every decision that gets made in the arrangement and the way the guitars sound and like what happens after this and what do we drop out, like every single piece is just like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted it to do. Thank you very much. I just saw them play at the Atlantis. They were opening for White Reaper, who, I mean, I wasn't planning on being like, hey, check them out, but like, check out White Reaper. They're great too. But yeah, Spiritual Cramp, White Reaper, and I guess rounded out with somebody in the same camp who was also in a matching touring party, Military Gun. They are very good. They just put out a full length like last year, I think it was, and maybe some reimagined versions off of it, acoustic style. But yeah, the album itself is very loud and very angry, and it's good.
Cool. That's great to hear. We've covered a bunch of different things today, and there's really no, rhyme or reason. Is there anything we missed that maybe people should know about what's going on with Sub Radio? Maybe we failed to address something that could be cool and interesting to people hanging with us.
I'm not the best at marketing myself, but I would say that maybe the new era is beginning with Sub Radio. We're taking a swing. We're doing an album. We're doing a big tour. This is not the only part of the tour. There's more coming. So I know that sometimes we make the joke, if you don't see your city, it's because it sucks and we don't like it there. But actually, we will be there. So more dates are coming soon. More music is coming. Can't wait to see you out there.
Awesome. Well, hey, it's been great getting to know you. Everybody check out Sub Radio. If what they have out there is just the beginning, what's coming down the pipe has to be amazing. I mean, I can't tell you enough to go check them out and really enjoy it. Thank you for hanging with us today. Kyle, I appreciate you joining us. Please share this with your friends. Let's get that Sub Radio talk going out there. Maybe there's so much demand they hit that stage with 300,000 people in the audience like they did on Reddit. And I wish you guys the best out there on the road. You're not coming to my town. I don't know why you don't like Dallas, Texas, but hey, you tell me what's wrong with Dallas. We'll see. We'll talk to the mayor. We see what we can fix.
We'll get it fixed
and, up. Yeah, we'll get it fixed up. You want a key to the city? We'll work on that. And then meanwhile, everybody, thanks for joining us. Please keep sharing these, subscribe, put your comments down below, add anything you want in the comments. We'll make sure that Kyle and the band know that you may have had a question or something of interest, like which town you live in that they should come to play and why it doesn't suck. And we'll catch you on the next hang. So Kyle, thanks so much for joining me today.
Good. Thank you, Scott. This has been great.
Awesome. Good talking to you. Bye for now.
Three, two, 1, 0, and